Hey guys, it's Jack Punkington, and here today I have what is probably my new favorite amp. At very least, it is tied with the Peavey XXX. So this, although you can't tell by the look of it, is a Peavey Classic 30. It is the older models from like the early 2000s. I know they go back even way further than that. I think from the 80s, late 80s to early 90s, but this is a 2002 Peavey Classic 30. I picked it up today for about 200 bucks. Brand new tubes. It has a Jensen mod speaker put into it. I am running it through the my Marshall 412, which is loaded with Celestion G1230s. So different kind of a sound. I'm actually not a fan of the Jensen, and so I might change that out or just make it into a head because I am really digging this amp. For those of you who have watched my channel for a while, you do know that I once, for one whole day, had a Peavey Classic 50 head, which I immediately returned to the seller because it was not working properly and I was not happy. But I found this, had a little extra money because I worked a lot of extra hours, and I wanted to find a backup amp in case the XXX blew up, and also something to just play at home that isn't as loud as the XXX, although 30 watts is really loud, especially 32 watts. This thing is awesome. It is very similar to kind of like a Marshall kind of sound to me, but in its own way. I love the cleans on this. I love the gain. I hate the boost function on this amp on the gain channel. On the clean channel it's a little different, but it makes it too mid-happy and too tinny sounding for my taste personally. But I'm going to go through this amp for you right now. So it's 2 channels, 30 watts, spring reverb, made here in the US. I love the spring reverb on this. I am running through my pedal board, nothing's on, into, surprise, the Schecter. This is the best sounding guitar with this amp that I own right now. I'm going to try it with a couple different things, but I tried both the SG and the Les Paul. Second was the Les Paul and then the SG. I think it's a mix of the pickups and just everything combined. It just sounds great. So we're going to start on the clean channel. So this has a shared 3-band EQ for both channels, and it doesn't have like a presence and resonance knob, which you would see on something like a Valve King or like a 6505. It's just your straight 3-band EQ plus a reverb. So that is just the clean channel, nothing on top of it. I'm going to add the boost feature to the clean channel. Now what the boost does, it is a volume and gain boost, so it should have a little bit of a crunch to it. I will say this amp is loud. So I'd really have to crank it, and that's really loud. But it's kind of got like a push clean sound to me. I'll turn the reverb down. I actually have it pretty high because I am a big fan of really wet sounding full reverbs. An overdrive pedal and see how it sounds. that comes across. So now I'm going to add a little bit of reverb. Put it at about 4. We're going to keep it still on the clean channel just to show you how active that reverb is. And I did turn the boost off, but I am going to add the overdrive pedal in now. Say I prefer the boost off completely. With the overdrive pedal, that's a really nice British style sounding crunch. So now I'm going to add the reverb up, and we're going to put it at about 8 o'clock, or not 8 o'clock, at 8. The cool thing about this amp is everything goes up to 12. I wanted to double check because I thought the reverb went to 11, but everything goes up to 12. Take that, Spinal Tap. I found an amp that beats her goes up to 11. Turn the overdrive off. So you can hear how full that reverb is, and that's not even all the way. That's only at 7. 7 or 8, just about 8. Now, just for fun, all the way up to 12. Really full reverb, but I like to have it at about 7. You still get the whole thing, but it doesn't overdo it. And I actually disconnected the speaker entirely. It's just running straight into the 412. There is a speaker output on the back for an extension speaker. I really don't like the way that the speaker it has sounds in general, and when you have the speaker output connected to like a 412 or a 212 or a different cabinet, it'll still come out of here. So I actually had to disconnect the speaker because I wasn't liking how the tones meshed. So now what we're going to do is switch over to the gain channel, and I actually have the gain really high. I'm going to roll that back, and we're going to start at about 4. So, right off the bat, this is just the amp, no pedals. It actually sounds very similar to how the clean channel did with the overdrive pedal on it. Down too, because that's actually up pretty high. Put the overdrive pedal on. Turn it off. Now I'm going to roll the gain up, and like I said, this amp is really good for a lot of different styles of music. You can play anything on these amps, and I think that's why they're so desirable. I see them going a lot, but I've also seen people play with them a lot. One of my favorite local bands from the surrounding area called Dirty DeVille. Please check them out. I think when I saw them live, the rhythm guitar player was playing the 50-watt version of this. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's what he was doing. Anyway, really loud too. it would help if I remember that pre and post are different. It's the one thing that gets me on Peavey amps. It's not like on a normal amp that says gain and volume. Peavey says pre and post, meaning preamp tubes and post, like all that jazz. Anyway, so now with the gain turned up to 7, and I'll turn the volume back up a little bit. Already you're reaching saturated metal tones. It does help that I am playing in drop B with a active pickup loaded Schecter, and through a Marshall 4 tool, but it still sounds really good. Now to add an overdrive pedal on. That sounds really good. Turn the volume down a little bit more, and I'm putting the gain on 10 just to kind of get more saturation. Okay, turn up a tad bit. Really hear how it gets really thick sounding. It actually kind of reminds me also some Dorje, which is a band I really like sounding, which they actually used, I believe, at the time, Tiny Terrors, and it kind of reminds me of that, which is actually what I was looking at buying instead of this. So now I'm going to add an overdrive again. It sounds really good. I'm actually like really happy with this thing. Alright. So now, just for fun, cranking the gain all the way up to 12. Let's hear how she sounds. See, it doesn't really like do what a lot of amps do when you crank the gain, which is where it fizzes out and gets to the point where it's unusable. Obviously, I probably wouldn't ever crank the gain and use it all the way up, but I do think that is neat, that it doesn't get fizzy, it just gets more saturated and full sounding. Overdrive. See, and from what my understanding is, that's actually what the boost function is supposed to do. I personally just don't like it. Maybe if I dialed it in and used other pedals and whatever, it would sound different. For me, it's just, I don't like it. But this amp is super cool. And none of them look like this. This is a one-of-a-kind design, or not design, but one-of-a-kind Tolex wrap job that someone did. Usually they're black, tweed, and sometimes there's like a Guitar Center exclusive cream one. I don't really care about the look as long as the amp sounds good. Although I will say, this kind of reminds me of I think they're called Evil Robot. I could have that wrong, I probably do, which Phil X uses, I think, or used to use when he worked with fretted Americana amps. They're more of a tweed color, but I don't know, the whole design, that's the first thing I think of. I love this mesh, it looks so cool. I might chop it and make it into a head, I don't know, we'll see. It's really neat. I think these are great amps, definitely worth money. I paid $200 for both this and actually the XXX, so $400 together, which is, it's a lot of money, but for something that if I put a different speaker in it and just left it as a 112, giggable, easily giggable with my pedals and my Schecter or any of my guitars. It is a giggable rig by itself without a 412. 412 is a nice addition, it adds more low end, but this amp is great. Definitely check them out, I highly recommend them. They're a great tube amp if you're on a budget. I got lucky, but I have seen them as low as like $250 used, plus shipping obviously. Check it around, really worth it. If you want like a nice Swiss Army amp, I would call it, where it just does everything, check them out. Jack Punkington signing out. Peace, guys.